closed doors, under high security, one man is living.
It was obvious that there had been, at one point, quite a bit. There was enough that had soaked down underneath the floor tiles.
Tests on the sample revealed it was type O. Both Marquez and his girlfriend had given blood samples, and neither had that type. But Cecilia Reyes did. Based on the forensic evidence, Gerardo Marquez was arrested and charged with the murder of Cecilia Reyes. When presented with the evidence amassed against him, he said that while his girlfriend was out, Reyes had voluntarily come to his apartment. They argued, and she fell, struck her head, and died. In a panic, he had disposed of the body, fearing no one would believe his story. Investigators told Marquez that in order to believe him, they needed to examine the rest of the body to confirm the cause of death. Cooperative as ever, Marquez led police to a field on the outskirts of Houston. There, abandoned in 2 more corrugated boxes, was the balance of the victim's remains. An autopsy revealed a bruise on the victim's head, supporting Marquez's story. Then, medical examiners found a deep knife wound in her throat. The stab wound was above the area where the victim had been dismembered, and appeared to have been made by a different type of blade. That suggested the wound had been inflicted prior to the victim's death, and not during the gruesome dismemberment. Once again, the suspect was caught in a lie. Police pieced together what had probably happened on the victim's last night alive. Leaving work as usual, Cecilia Reyes was accosted by Marquez. He abducted her and brought her to his apartment. There, she rebuffed his sexual advances, inflicting the scratches detectives had seen on his face. During the struggle, he stabbed her to death. Though the suspect's guilt was ultimately written in blood, an ordinary blanket propelled the investigation. Gerardo Marquez was convicted of capital murder and sentenced to life in prison. Often, the most grisly murders are solved with the most mundane clues. The trick is knowing where to look and how to use them. Most homicide cases start with a body. This one began with a chance observation: a torn shirt half hidden in the grass, and a dark stain in the road that might be blood. When Officer Kenny Corcoran noticed them soon after breakfast one Sunday outside his house on Smiling Acres Road in Tangipahoa Parish, Louisiana, he knew just what to do. Call Detective Chester Pritchett.
Tell you what I got, Chester. I got blood in the road here. Got the same marker of a car.
As soon as he arrived, Pritchett wanted to see what Corcoran had found. There was a stain in the road, Corcoran explained, most likely blood from a deer or a dog hit by a passing car. The torn shirt was a little harder to explain. Both men agreed they should dig into this a little deeper.
Oh, good. I will give you something to read, all right?
Pritchett was known as a careful police officer. Before leaving home that Sunday morning, he had checked to see whether any accidents or missing persons had been reported. None had. Only on Tuesday did he learn of a young woman's disappearance. On the wall of the courthouse, Pritchett found a poster of a missing girl. Rebecca Forbes, a 19-year-old high school student who vanished a mere 48 hours earlier. She was wearing a white shirt, which seemed to match the one he found on Sunday. For Pritchett, her disappearance and the discovery of the torn shirt were sufficient grounds to begin an investigation. 6:30 p.m., Saturday, April 28, 1990. At her home in Dedham, Louisiana, Rebecca Forbes prepared for a night out at the Italian Festival in nearby Independence. At the festival, Rebecca met a young man. They talked and danced and were still together when Rebecca's friends lost track of her. None of them remembered hearing his name, but with the help of police records, Pritchett hoped they still might identify him. From police files, one of Rebecca Forbes' friends picked out the man's face. His name was Kelly Drutt. Just 20 years old, he was well known as a troublemaker. He had been arrested more than once for house break-ins. In time, Pritchett would interview Drutt to check his version of events at the festival. Before that, he hoped to have a report on the shirt Kenny Corcoran had found. At Louisiana State Crime Laboratory, Pritchett had given the shirt to forensic scientists George Skiro and Pat Lane. He asked them to learn all they could from it. Skiro's examination began with the physical state of the shirt. He scrutinized it for what is called trace evidence: hair, fibers, material of any kind adhering to it. Next, the most basic question: were the dark stains really blood? To determine that, Skiro conducted a cascade of chemical tests, designed successively to confirm
your social status? Dragon is the answer. Watch this. I can say anything, and Dragon will capture it with amazing ease and accuracy. But there's more to Dragon than just putting words on a screen. If you're a student, own a business, have a disability or injury that makes it difficult to use your computer, want to write a family history, or just aren't that good at typing, you have to try Dragon. It's helped millions of people.
When I bought Dragon, I thought about my grandson.
When I use pencil, the paper, it's like a giant puzzle. Now, all I have to do is just say it and it writes it down. Should we have words to keep our minds? Delete peace, freedom.
If you find typing painful, Dragon can help.
From combat-related injuries, I was beginning to lose sensation in my left and right hands. There's no comparison between my manual keyboarding skills and what I can do with Dragon. Select sears, scars. What it gives me is an option to continue.
There was human blood on the blouse and human blood in the trunk. Next step was to do an ABO blood type and try and determine what type blood it was. When we did the examination, we found out that both samples from the blouse and in the trunk of the car were type O blood.
the test was less conclusive than Skiro had hoped. Type O blood is the most common human blood group. Here, as it turned out, both the possible victim and the possible suspect possessed it.
So it did not provide any information of value. The next step was to send it off for DNA analysis to see if a more specific genetic profile could be built up on bloods.
It would require several weeks for the DNA tests to be completed. Before that, the case would take a dramatic new turn. On Sunday, May 19th, 3 weeks after Rebecca Forbes was last seen, two men hunting along the Tangapahoa River stumbled across a badly decomposed corpse.
Well, the way this case started was with a mystery. We had some bloody clothes found in the middle of the road.
Few books on earth can cause such a sensation.
And there is no doubt anybody who sees this book in the flesh cannot be unaware that it has a certain sort of power.
And behind it all there's a diabolical driving force. A single sinister figure. Satan. The Codex boasts a full-page portrait of the devil. No other Bible on earth features such a sizable image of evil incarnate. No one knows who created it, or why it's there.
It is extraordinary and very, very unusual picture. It's unforgettable and it's haunting, and that may be intentional.
Capture or kill. We are comfortable with either option.
6, The Raid on Osama bin Laden, a world premiere, Sunday at 8 on the National Geographic Channel.
Throughout its history, the Codex Gigas, the Devil's Bible, has been coveted by some of the most powerful people on Earth. Perhaps no one has been more obsessed with the book than a Holy Roman Emperor, driven to possess the Devil's Bible for himself. Austria, 1565. Crown Prince Rudolf II awaits a royal horoscope from a master soothsayer, Michel de Nostradamus, the famed French seer, apothecary, and almanac writer, prepares an elaborate chart. In it, he predicts Rudolf's father's death and the young ruler's ascent to the throne, becoming Holy Roman Emperor. When Rudolf receives the horoscope at last, the predictions help launch his lifelong obsession with the occult. Years later, the obsessed King Rudolf's fascination with the mystical arts borders on mania. He collects alchemy formulas, astrological charts, magical devices, and books on the occult. But one notorious text is missing: the Devil's Bible. Rudolf covets the Codex. The monarch ingratiates himself with the Benedictine abbey that owns the book, granting honors and favors. The strategy works. An abbot brings the Codex to Prague, presenting it to Rudolf as a gift. The king is captivated. He hires experts to translate passages and pores over the book's strange pages, including the infamous portrait of the devil. Rudolf keeps the Codex for himself, a great acquisition for a great leader, but his luck soon takes a turn for the worse. Prone to melancholy since childhood, the emperor becomes antisocial, erratic, and paranoid. He stays cloistered in his castle. Rudolf's reign soon becomes a disaster. Unfit to rule, Rudolf loses his supporters. His own family banishes him from the throne. The emperor dies powerless, unmarried, with no heirs to avenge his good name. Rudolf's former kingdom falls into enemy hands. Swedish armies sack the royal library. They confiscate perhaps its most extraordinary manuscript, the Codex Gigas. Centuries later, at Codex headquarters in the Swedish National Library, it's hard to imagine such upheaval and chaos. The investigating team is narrowing their search for the mysterious scribe of the Devil's Bible. They need more data to prove or disprove a monk acted alone. But the more of the Codex they examine, the harder it is to imagine. How could a single human being be responsible, and how long would it take? Even for an expert in ancient calligraphy, the time needed to complete the book is a tricky calculation. Michael Gulick first estimates the time it would take to complete one line. To do it, he must recreate the 13th century, replicating the science of scribes. Applying his hand to the blank page, Michael duplicates the 12-point Latin font taken from a page of the Devil's Bible.
The quill can only move so fast across a piece of parchment. And that's as true today as it was 700 years ago. We could then multiply out and work out in the number of lines how long it might take the scribe to work.
Michael estimates writing non-stop, a scribe could have completed one line in 20 seconds, a column in 30 minutes, a page in an hour, and to complete the manuscript working round the clock, roughly 5 years. But there's a catch. Monks had rigorous duties, with only a few writing hours allowed each day. In addition, the actual calligraphy was only a fraction of the job.
So, okay, 5 years hard writing, 8 is long to rule, so that immediately makes 10 years. You had to make the decorated initials, and sometimes the initials may take 2 or 3 days each to do. He would have had to correct his text, he would have had to go to church on Sunday. You add on all the other factors, we then come to something like a minimum of 20 years to produce. I prefer something like 25 to 30.
And there's more to the math. Working under 13th century conditions, writing the codex would have been back-breaking labor. That in itself may be a clue. In medieval monasteries, copying a holy book was a common form of penance, laborious, physically taxing work that gave a scribe a chance to purge his soul.
The medieval believed that it was possible to expiate one's sins by copying the text.
And there are other signs that suggest it might have been the work of a condemned monk on a mission. The book's content is highly unusual, from holy tracts to histories to medicinal cures. It includes a combination of texts found in no other book. Experts note its emphasis on caring for the body and mind and protecting the immortal soul.
It is absolutely, completely enormous. It is absolutely mad. It is loony. There are no other manuscripts like it. It contains a combination of text that exists nowhere else.
Was the monk creating a guide to save himself? One section in particular supports the idea the codex might have been driven by a guilty conscience, a group of spells called conjurations, close relatives of a more infamous ritual, exorcism. No other Bible contains a devil's portrait and demonic conjurations. In the codex, they're side by side. Was the writer performing a kind of self-exorcism? Medieval exorcisms and conjurations were often terrifying. Physical restraints, fevered prayers, haunting incantations. Clergy and victim battled over the soul of the possessed. Codex Gigas, page 290. Conjuration cures for dangerous illness.
Making a claim to a continent. Has that frontier spirit been fenced in? Or does the promise of the West live on? Well, get ready, America, on simple values and healthy country lifestyles. His agrarian dream clashed with what Federalists like Alexander Hamilton saw as progress. A nation built on thriving cities, centers of industry and culture. To find out which vision became reality, we asked people who always seem to have the answers. Teachers. Representing the country, Mary Hunter, who works at a rural high school with a graduating class of just 25 kids. Representing the city, Chastity Washington, a high school teacher who's also a comedian. Let's start off with a city-country quiz. Okay, Chastity and Mary, at the time of the first census in 1790, what percentage of the U.S. population still lived in the countryside? And whoever's closer gets the point.
I would say 65%.
You think 65%? How much
I
do you
would say 95.
95%? The correct answer is 95%. Very nice.
There you go.
There you go.
Pure luck.
You're lucky. You're teachers. You both know everything.
Oh, there's a lot of luck.
What percentage of the population lives in rural areas today? What would you say?
I'd say 20%.
20%. Chastity.
I'd say 15%.
19%. So very good. Have you studied your census data?
Luck.
Luck.
I'm sticking with it.
Okay. So what's the difference between rural and urban? Well, rural areas have fewer than 50,000 residents. Anything bigger is considered urban. And today, a full 80% of us live in or around a city. Curious about whether you're in the city or the country? Well, just try to get a cup of Morning Joe. When we map the nation's coffee shops, it reveals that our coffee shop density, well, it corresponds to the map of the largest cities. The farther you travel from a city center, the harder it is to get some coffee or a latte. A sure sign that you're heading into the countryside. In what decade did the United States change from a majority rural population to an urban one? Was it the 1820s, the 1920s, or the 1950s? Chastity.
1820s.
That is incorrect. The answer is the 1920s. That is correct. A mass migration that started in the late 1800s permanently changed the map. The main reason folks moved to the city, something we hear a lot about today: jobs. The growth of urban factories created a huge demand for labor. Between 1870 and 1920, America's urban population skyrocketed from 10 million to 54 million, thinning out the ranks all across the countryside. There are 5 states that are considered exceptionally rural, meaning that not even one of these states has a city with more than 100,000 people in it. Can you name any of these states? Mary.
Montana?
That is incorrect. Chastity, you get a shot. She is correct. It's Maine. The other 4 are Delaware, Vermont.
Or my sideburn, and that's all because of no-no.
No painlessly removes embarrassing facial hair. It's perfect for your legs and bikini line, and it works great for men too. No continues to receive rave reviews. Plus, it's become a worldwide sensation with over 2 million customers in 50 countries. No-No's patented Thermocon technology delivers a gentle pulse of heat over the skin to immediately remove and crystallize the hair for long-lasting results. Want proof? On the left, you see a patch of hair before No. The middle picture shows the same hair after being treated twice a week for 6 weeks. Look what happened when it was left untreated for an additional 6 weeks. Almost no hair came back, and what does is finer and thinner.
I don't see it coming back for weeks, and with shaving, I will see it the next morning.
It's easy to use, no irritation, and the hair stays away for weeks.
Call now and we'll rush you everything you need to get rid of your unwanted hair. Specially designed Thermocon tips for your face and body. Buffer pads and No Smooth Cream to give your skin that polished glow. Plus this bonus travel case. And get this, you can try No risk-free for not 30 days, but 60 days with a triple guarantee. See for yourself how No delivers long-lasting results. If you're not 100% satisfied, return it, and we'll refund the purchase price, refund the shipping, and even pay the return postage. This means there is no risk to try No today.
Try No risk-free. Call 1-800-949-9092. That's 1-800-949-9092. Or visit trynono.tv right now.
You hear that? That's the sound of car insurance companies these days. Here cheap, there cheap, everywhere a cheap. You get it. So what if instead of just a cheap choice, you could make a smart choice? Like Esurance, for example. They were born online and built to save people money from the beginning. That's what they've always done. Not just something they cheap about. That's insurance for the modern world. Esurance, now backed by Allstate. Click or call.
So, which Rust Belt state had the largest population loss between 2000 and 2010? The answer is B, Michigan. Between 2000 and 2010, about 55,000 people moved out of the state, making it the only state in that decade with a population decline. On how the states got their shapes, we're uncovering what really divides America. Pittsburgh is an interesting place to explore the blue-collar, white-collar divide, because even the white-collar workforce here seems to have a blue-collar soul.
The white collar is definitely, I would say, the new blue collar.
Someone made a comment earlier that you can tell a white-collar worker...
The uniform?
The uniform, because they wear a white-collar uniform, like a blue shirt,
Khakis, and then like yourself.
मरीज को मरीज ज्यादा दवाई क्यों दवाई ताकत नहीं दवाई नहीं खाई ताकत तो लग रहा है क्या दवाई Why là đi con? Why là đi con đi? Cái này là pizza không?